What's the point of therapy? Is it even worth it? And what even am I going to learn? These are all the questions that I had in my mind before I started therapy. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name's Alyssa, and if you've been following me for a while, then you know that I've recently been sharing my journey when it comes to my mental health and struggling with anxiety. And because of that, I've made the decision to go ahead and start therapy again. Now, I used to be in therapy back when I lived in Hawaii, but stopped once I became a mother because priorities. But now I'm realizing that those priorities should also include my well-being, my mental health, and my happiness. So here we are back in therapy, and on Instagram I went ahead and asked you guys if you wanted to see a video like this, and most of you agreed on yes, so here it is. Here are 5 mindset shifts that I've learned in therapy. Now, before we dive deeper into this video, I do want to go ahead and preface this by saying I am not in any way, shape, or form an expert on this topic. This is just me talking about my experience, but if you guys are on your mental health journey as well and are considering therapy, I do suggest looking into it, of course, with a healthcare professional, and talking to your doctor to see if it's right for you. I personally am an advocate for anyone going to therapy. It doesn't necessarily mean that you feel that there's something wrong with you in order for you to get into it. For me, therapy is just wanting to be a better version of yourself. And for me, that includes learning how to deal with and handle my anxiety. And for anyone else, that can be a plethora of things. But if you feel it is something that you want to go ahead and look into, please go ahead and talk to your doctors, and hopefully they can refer you to a healthcare specialist and put you on the right path. But if you're just looking for the extra boost of encouragement as to if you should go or why you should go, please let this be a reminder that there is such a negative stigma around therapy a lot of the times. And for me, it's been nothing but a positive experience, even when I was back in Hawaii, but even more so now. So with that being said, let's get into it. The first thing that I learned really right off the bat, especially since this is my second time coming, is acceptance. Acceptance is a big one. If you can accept, especially to yourself, why it is that you feel you're in therapy in the first place, you're already, in my opinion, halfway there. Acceptance plays a huge part. And this is really huge on me the second time around, because back when I was in therapy the first time, I knew that I not only wanted / needed therapy, but I just kind of felt that it was more of a yapping session and just me kind of venting. And while that necessarily wasn't a bad thing, it was definitely a safe space. And I was even given a lot of tools on how to navigate situations back then. I necessarily was avoiding the entire reason why I kind of wanted to go in the first place. And that is what I typically do. I go ahead and deflect a lot of the times, and I really had to recognize this second time around, especially if I wanted the help that I needed, that I had to stop doing that and really come to terms with the fact as to why it is that I'm there. So acceptance plays a really huge part in how you're going to navigate that journey of yours, especially when it comes to mental health and especially therapy. Your therapist is only going to help you as much as you want to help yourself. So if you're not vulnerable or talking to them about the things that you really need the help on, then they're only going to help you as much as you allow them to. They're not mind readers. They're only there to give you tools. Which brings me to my second point, building your toolbox. Building your toolbox and acceptance kind of goes hand in hand. So when you first accept why you're in therapy, I feel like this opens a whole new door as to all the tools that you'll be able to use when it comes to navigating certain situations that you feel you'll find yourself in again, and how to just deal with life in general. So for me, I'll go ahead and use the example of my anxiety. I knew even back in Hawaii how much I struggled with anxiety, but I never really wanted to get to the reason or the core as to why it was that I was feeling so anxious. I knew it was a problem. I knew I wanted to deal with it, but I really didn't want to know or really even come to terms with why is it that I'm the way that I am. So I was able to navigate my anxiety a little bit better after going to therapy, but especially continuing on with my life and especially after becoming a mother, my anxiety just kind of expanded into things that I didn't even know it could expand to, and I feel like it just got a lot worse. I didn't have the tools necessary in order to navigate how big of a problem that actually was, but because I didn't allow my therapist to really see what was going on, and that is completely my fault. So this time around, if you've been following me for a while, then you know back in February/March, I really had I want to say serious / huge mental breakdown, and that is kind of where the cookie started crumbling for me, and I had to follow the trail, which led me to therapy. Now that I've been a lot more open and accepted a lot more as to I can't avoid who I am, I just have to learn how to navigate it differently now. I can accept that about myself, not feel so ashamed, even though it's nothing to be ashamed about. I feel like I taught that to myself, but now that I've accepted that part of my journey, when I go see my therapist and I have my sessions with her, she's able to give me a lot more tools than I previously previously had when it comes to how I navigate my anxiety. So for example, I got my diagnoses. I won't go too in depth as to that because again, like although I'm making this video for you guys and to give you guys a little bit more transparency, I still want to keep a little bit to myself, of course, because you know, it is my life and things that I deal with, and if I just put it all out there, then I feel like the journey that I'm on, it's gonna really affect that. So we're just gonna go ahead and talk about anxiety in general. With my anxiety, I went ahead and let her know that I was feeling a certain ways and that I knew a lot of the coping skills when it came to anxiety, especially like the breathing method or the 5 4 3 2 1. A lot of those methods didn't necessarily work for me, especially when I was going into a really bad panic attack. I could not bring myself down from one, and I went ahead and let her know this with this last time around, with this last panic attack, that I was just, it lasted for days. And that was really the biggest reason as to why I ended up in therapy again, was because I realized that this panic attack was not just something that came and went, it lingered on for months. And if you have anxiety, then you know how debilitating it can be. It started affecting a lot of my daily life, and I did not like how I felt, and I knew that something had to change. But again, going back to the toolbox, I did not have the tools necessary in order for me to move on, and it was such a hard time for me to navigate. And I'm so glad that I am where I'm at now because I have a lot more tools. And while I still obviously struggle with anxiety, navigating it has been so much more of like an eye-opener and easier, because what I talk about in therapy a lot and what we discuss is basically the notion that anxiety, a lot of the times, especially for me, is these thoughts that I latch onto and attach and I run with them. What my therapist and I have discussed is these thoughts are just thoughts, and that has been really hard for me to come to terms with, because for me, the way that my brain works is that these thoughts are facts, and these facts are my life, and that is the way that my world revolves, is around my anxiety a lot of the times. But when I came to terms with the fact that maybe these are just thoughts, because obviously right away I'm not going to go ahead and be like, oh, okay, you know, these thoughts are thoughts, they can just come and go. I really just had to kind of sit with the fact and learn that these are just thoughts. And while there's some truth rooted in why I feel anxious, it doesn't mean that every anxious thought I feel is real. So that has been really interesting for me, and for a lot of people who don't struggle with anxiety, this is common knowledge to people and this is really easy for them to do and deal with. But for me, this has been something that I do not know how to navigate, and it may seem really simple, but it's been something that I've had to work on day in and day out and not let myself spiral. So that's been really interesting. So a lot of the tools I have are just recognizing that these are thoughts, and it's kind of the way that I explain it, especially to my husband, it's kind of like a bunny rabbit. Is if I feel anxious, this bunny rabbit of mine, which is a thought, it sees something and it starts running. The rest of me, the rest of my brain is trying to catch this bunny rabbit that is a thought. And the way that my mind works so fast and it's so interesting the way your mind works, and it's just so elaborate, like my thoughts. I had to learn how to recognize the bunny, learn where it's going, and stop it from going there. So I really had to quickly realize that this is a thought that I'm having, and I need to de-escalate it to becoming a reality that isn't true. So it's been getting easier for me to be like, oh, you know, like for instance, the biggest example I can give is like my coffee break. Speaking of that, you guys know me, I love my coffee, but ever since I had that really bad episode back again in February/March, I have not been able to consume coffee the same way. It has gotten to a point where I only allow myself like 2 shots of espresso a day, whereas before, like, I just drank freely. I just drank as much as I wanted and felt that I needed to, you know, get through the day, especially being a mom. But now I am a lot more careful and a lot more, I don't even want to say careful, because there's nothing necessarily that I should be careful of. I am a lot more aware as to how much I am consuming. While it's good to be mindful of things, it's detrimental to me because it kind of takes away the just go with the flow type things. But actually, just yesterday, I made my coffee. I still try to consume it. I just recognize that it's a lot harder. I don't want it to be something that is taken away from me or that I take away from myself. So I still try to do those things that honestly make me happy. Coffee makes me really happy. I love my Nespresso machine. I love making coffee at home. I have had to learn to just let myself be. I also don't push myself too far. If I feel like I'm just having like a hard time drinking coffee, I stop myself and move on. Back to the point, yesterday I was drinking my coffee, doing some homework, and when I looked over at my coffee randomly, I noticed that it was 3/4 done, and this is not like a super small glass, you know, it's pretty average size. I just recognized that, and we'll get that on to, you know, the next point. I recognized that small little win and really like patted myself on the back because I have had such a hard time drinking my coffee. Yesterday, I realized like, oh, it is just a thing. And these are just things that I don't have to be scared of anymore. And I can go back to doing these things that I love and enjoy. And it doesn't have to consume so much negativity in my life. So yesterday when I was just drinking my coffee and I was just drinking my coffee, I recognized like nothing is ever as bad sometimes as my mind makes it seems, and at the end of the day I'm gonna be okay, just fine. And that has been really interesting for me to navigate because I have not always felt that way. I have always felt on edge, and that is really hard to live like that because not everything has to be done with caution and or this anxiousness and anxiety that the worst is gonna happen. What I've also learned in therapy is that what's the best that can happen, and on top of that, what is the worst that's gonna happen, but is it gonna happen? Is the reality of it gonna happen? Most of the time, the answer to the question for me is no, the worst isn't gonna happen. It hasn't happened. And if it does, we'll get there when we get there. But for now, what is there to worry about? See, like, this is more coffee that I've drank in like the past couple of weeks. And I can still keep drinking it and tell myself, Alyssa, you're fine. So that is a huge win for me. Using all the tools that I've had, for me, the biggest one again is realizing that bunny rabbit in my mind and going after it and stopping it. That has been such a huge help. Now again, the tools for everyone can be different. And for me, it's just a lot of that self-reflection that I have to use amongst my tools. But your toolbox is going to be everything when it comes to therapy aside from acceptance. You have to understand what your tools are. It's really hard to navigate what you're trying to navigate if you're not understanding what are the tools that help you and also what are the things that maybe trigger you or don't help you. Some of the methods when it comes to anxiety do help me, but sometimes they don't. I've had to recognize if my anxiety gets too bad, I cannot do the breathing method because then I become too focused on my breathing. So I find other things in my toolbox that I can use. So your toolbox is going to be the second biggest thing that I've learned when it comes to therapy. What's in your toolbox and how can you use it? The third thing that I've learned in therapy is that, again, a lot of this is just based off my opinion, my experience, is celebrating the wins. If you know me in real life, then you know that I typically come off as a really positive person. But I am actually kind of not really like that. I have like a Grinch on my shoulder a lot of the times when it comes to my life. And a lot of the things that I say in my head are, what's the point? It's not that great. And it's just things that apply to me. So if people are out accomplishing things, I can root for them, I can cheer for them. But that voice inside of my head of when I do things, I used to think accomplished things, they were not accomplishments, it was just the bare minimum, and I never really was doing anything. So I was always raising the bar higher, yet never feeling accomplished or fulfilled. And that is a really, really tough way to live as well. Biggest example I can give is my associate's degree. I started going back to school last fall. The reason I started was because I really enjoyed school and I'm actually really good at it. And I stopped because of life events back in 2019 or so. So I stopped going, but I have gotten back on the horse and realized like, no, this is something I want to do and accomplish. So here we are, spring of 2025, and I'm actually about to graduate and finish my degree with my associates. And if you would have asked me a couple months ago how I felt about it, I would have told you, I don't see the big deal. I think it's dumb, and I'm only doing it to get a bachelor's, which even then is not that big of a deal. Again, it's just the bare minimum. When I mentioned first to my husband that I was graduating this spring, he was so excited for me. He was like, oh my gosh, we can frame it, we can put it up on the wall. He was more excited than me. And I remember looking at him and thinking like, you want to frame it? And he was like, well, yeah. And he has like his awards from his career, and he was like, yeah, we can put them next to mine. A little part of me thought it was cute because it would be him and I's accomplishments, and I think that's adorable. The Grinch on my shoulder was like, you're gonna put your associate's degree, that small little thing, next to this man's career accomplishments? Like, that looks dumb. Why would you do that? And that Grinch just kept sitting next to me on my shoulder telling me like, it's whatever, it's not that great. I don't even know why you're even celebrating. Like, it's just not even that it's just a piece of paper, it's just lower than the bare minimum. Like, for someone who wants to have a bachelor's degree, why are you celebrating an associate's? That's how I used to think months ago. If you keep talking to yourself like that, nothing in life is gonna go great and nothing in life is swell. I have recently had to change that mindset and recognize like, no, like this is an accomplishment. I have worked hard. Not only that, on top of graduating with an associate's, I'm doing it all while creating content and being a mother. Like, how many people can say that? Me. I can say that. So why am I not going to celebrate something that truly is an accomplishment? Even if you take out those outside factors, me just accomplishing my associates is an accomplishment in and of itself. And I've had to learn to recognize all of the small, even the smallest accomplishments. Going back to the coffee thing, when I started thinking like that, I started recognizing like not only just how good of a life that I have, but how lucky I am. And I feel like those YouTube TikTok girlies where like everything just like pans out, and I just like genuinely am starting, of course it's not going to happen right away, but I'm starting to feel that way about myself. Wow, like everything just aligns for me, everything just works out for me, but because of my mindset, because I have recognized that every single day I have so many small wins that are gonna take me into bigger wins that I want for myself, that I strive for, and that these goalposts, I don't have to necessarily keep moving, but if I move them, I can recognize when I get to that first goalpost before moving it. I don't have to just keep constantly moving the goalpost and not recognizing when I first get there. So that has been such an interesting thing to navigate. So celebrating the wins is definitely top 3. On to number 4. The fourth thing that I've learned in therapy is to give yourself grace. I have not in a lot of my life given myself grace when it comes to anything that I've either accomplished and or failed at. Like if I accomplished something, it wasn't that big of a deal, but if I failed at something, especially, I was a failure, I should never try again, and what was the point? My failures to me have always meant more than, and look, even that, like, it's a past thing for me now, like, and I'm so proud of that. It's a little, you see, little small win. My failures used to always mean more to me than my accomplishments. And as someone who's in a marriage, my partner recognized that a lot in me. He would always recognize, like, why do the negative things resonate so much with you? And that, affects your relationship as well. And he would always just question, like, why is it that the good things never sit with you? Why does the bad sit with you so much? That used to be just because of my mindset, because it's like I just expected the world to look at me through my failures and not my accomplishments, whereas other people time and time again, like, they would just spew out my accomplishments to me, and I was the first person to knock them down. Like, I truly was my worst enemy. That's just like really interesting, and I don't mean to push people away, and I never wanted to push people away, but that's what would end up happening, is I would push people away because I was just such a negative Nancy at times. I would want to be around someone that no matter how much good you tell them even about themselves, like, they're still going to negate that with all sorts of negativity that only they perceive truly. It wasn't like anybody was telling me that my accomplishments were accomplishments. It wasn't like anyone was telling me that, oh, things really are as bad as you seem. If anything, everyone was telling me how great everything was and how great, like, I truly am. But I just was that type of person that Grinch on my shoulder. It was just like the self-talk in my head was so negative that I really couldn't see anything positive. I had no grace with myself. Everything that I did was either the bare minimum, not good enough, or honestly, like, why did I even bother? So it just became this vicious cycle of, if I tried something and I, now looking at it, excelled at it, then I didn't necessarily excel. It was just, again, like the bare minimum. That is what giving yourself grace is that you need to definitely take all the good, recognize it, but even if you do fail, fall short, whatever the case may be, or even if there are bad times in your life, because there still are going to be bad times in your life, there still are going to be times where you fall short, there's still going to be times where you fall down, but you really, especially for me, have to take a lot more effort. I have to take a lot more effort to really recognize those, minor setbacks, because sometimes they really are minor, that for me, that I turn them into major, those setbacks in life, and recognize, like, okay, this is temporary. And just like the thoughts that I think are the end of the world, and the same way that I've had to teach myself that these are thoughts that just can, like, come and go, are the same way I've had to really look at setbacks. Okay, I'm feeling this way, it's hard right now, but it won't be hard forever. Giving myself a lot of grace has afforded me a lot more opportunity, especially in getting things done and really, like, getting back on the horse, because I would just fall into these spirals and these fits of, like, I didn't even want to get out of bed, but of course I have to because I'm a mother, and especially because of that, I felt more guilty. So I just felt like I was digging myself into a deeper hole than I needed to, because I just wasn't recognizing that a bad day, a lot of, like, this for me has, like, changed my life. For me personally, like, a bad moment in my life, a bad moment in my day does not make it a bad day, does not make it a bad week, does not make it a bad life. And I very much used to be that person. You can ask my husband, because I live with him, that if something just, and I'm like, he calls me the queen of minor inconveniences and says it with a lot of love, but it's unfortunately true. Any minor inconvenience, I was just letting that ruin my day. Like, if I was cooking dinner and sometimes it wouldn't come out right, I always like to ask my husband, like, how did it come out? And he's like always like, you know, good, because I honestly I don't ever really make anything bad unless like I really mess something up, but that's, you know, again, few and far in between. Most of the times I make a really delicious dinner. If at the times where I messed something up or I felt I messed something up, because I'm cooking, only I really know how it's supposed to turn out because my husband just eats it, I would just be like, you know what, dinner's messed up, and it would really bring me like down in the dumpies, and he would taste it and just be like, okay, so it didn't turn out the way that maybe you intended in your mind, but it's edible, it's good even, like what are you so stressed about? And I would just like let that turn it into, and it would be what, 4:35, 5:36 p.m. It'd be dinner time, and that would just ruin the rest of my day. Like I just, you know what, that was it. And even worse if it happened like early in the morning or midday. If I spilled my coffee in the morning, which happens pretty often because I'm a very clumsy person, or even just spilled a little bit of my espresso because I can't pour it right, I would just, and it's so subconsciously too, like that really just affected my entire day. And I really had an attitude, and that attitude just like tumbled into other things that were happening throughout the day, and it just would turn into like, dang, like I don't even want to be around the person that I used to be. And it's like, in my opinion, I'm again gonna give myself a pat on my back, like I'm really not the person that I was a couple of months ago. Like I feel like I am more a ray of sunshine, especially to my husband who lives here with me 24/7, because I used to be that person that was like, you know, and again, it's like no hard feelings, like he says it with all the love and all the grace in his heart. Like I just was not that person that was very, you know, I wasn't a pleasant person to be around. And I really had to recognize that the way that I was thinking not only affected myself but those around me. And it can only get to a point where I'm allowing it so much, and I really had to recognize, especially if I wanted to better myself, if it's not going to be for me, which it first and foremost has to be for you. Again, if you're going to go to therapy, it can't be for anyone else. It has to be for you. And that is the biggest thing I have to reiterate. Like, don't go to therapy because someone else tells you to. If that's going to be maybe a word of encouragement, go ahead and try it out, go for it. But what you do in your life has to be for you. And I'm a firm, huge, hard advocate for, if you go to therapy, it has to be for you, because you at the end of the day are the only one that's going to be able to make the choices that are going to affect these things and so many other things in your life. So if you're going just to go and you're really not going to take and absorb everything that is going to be taught to you, told to you, you're not going to apply these things to your situations, but every other situation that falls into your life, and it's not going to benefit you in any which way. Because if you can't accept, which goes back to the first point, if you can't accept that you're the one that needs to change or wants to change, then nothing is going to change. You have to be the one that sees the change needs to be done for it to be seen by others, and you know, yourself too, because one day you're going to look in the mirror like I do to myself and be like, hey, maybe you used to be that type of person that wasn't that dandy, but now look at you. Kind of like that Paul Rudd, like look at us now, who would have thought? Like that's me and my inner voice talking to myself. Number 4, again, reiterating, like give yourself grace, whether that's with, again, your failures, accomplishments, anything in between. Every single little thing you need to give yourself grace for, because like everyone else on this earth, this is their first time living this life, and you can't be so hard on yourself with the things that you don't know. And if you felt like you could have done better, then just do better the next time. Don't be so harsh on yourself, because that's not going to get you anywhere. And lastly, number 5, it's a journey, not a race. And I feel this especially, again, going back to it being my second time in therapy. When I went to therapy the first time around, I really expected it to be like, oh, I just kind of go, get the tools that I need, and then I'll be on my merry way. Like I'm fixed, I'm cured, you know, like I'm good to go for the rest of my life. And probably because it's my second time around, bringing myself back into that situation, looking myself again in the mirror and saying like, okay, we have not fixed what we needed to fix and what we need to continue to work on. And my therapist has been really great this time around, that she has reminded me like, it's not going to happen tomorrow. It's not going to happen next week. Girl, it's probably not going to happen 6 months to a year from now. Like she has been, and people have told me all around my life too. I really just didn't want to recognize it, sit with it and accept it, that it really is, everyone hears the saying, or a lot of people do, like it's a journey, not a race. And my therapist has had to really reiterate that to me, because I was telling her something, and I was telling her how I feel, and that, you know, especially in the beginning, like, oh, like I'm having my great days, but sometimes the days where I feel not so great, you know, they kind of just go by really slow. And she's like, it seems that the way you view things is just staring at a clock, waiting for it to pass. And when she said that to me, it obviously stuck, because I think at that point in time, that's when I realized like I do think like that, and I do watch the time go. But in between all the time that passes, like my life is passing, the moments are passing, and I'm not present. I'm just focused on this negative energy that I'm bringing to myself. And when she said that to me, I think at that point it really just sparked something in me, and I was just like, whoa girl, chill, like you can't be saying that. I just met you. But it was true, and she was the first, not the first one, but she has been the most recent one, I should say, to reiterate again and be like, if you look at everyone around you and keep comparing yourself, and my husband has always been the one to be like, comparison is a thief of joy, and I used to so dislike, because I hate the word hate. I used to so dislike him saying that phrase, but I think in the back of my mind, I always knew that was true. And while, of course, social media is super prevalent in my life because I do make a lot of content, I have recognized that I don't necessarily look at content the same anymore. I look at content as just like my thoughts, like they come and go. And I don't look at the content anymore as comparison. I look at it as like, wow, cool. I consume it and I just kind of like let it be. Whereas before, if I saw another creator, another girl, another person working on something, and I put myself in their shoes and saw that I wasn't there yet, then it would kind of again send me down this rabbit hole. Whereas now it's just like, now that I think about it, like that doesn't even cross my mind. Like I really had to think about how I used to think, because I've had to work on so much on how to not think that way, that I'm glad that it takes me longer now to revert back to the old ways than how easy it used to be to think that way. So that is definitely number 5, is it's a journey, not a race. To top it off, like this is a lifelong journey. And I really and I really mean it when I say that, because no matter what is going to come at my life, like I'm still going to be the person that I am, and I'm still going to be the person that struggles with anxiety. While this doesn't have to be debilitating in my life anymore, and while it may still always be a part of my life, I can keep learning, forever learning on how to navigate it and make it easier amongst myself, to where hopefully, fingers crossed, like normal anxious, where I can just be like, wow, did I undercook this chicken? Oh, it's okay. You know, like before I used to like burn the chicken, and that would be like, okay, solidified to me that it was definitely cooked. Now, my husband has made so many comments where he's like, dang, this chicken is juicy. But that's because I've learned, okay, again, going back to like, what's the worst that can happen? I don't know, maybe my tummy hurts, maybe, I don't know. My tummy hurts. I am just doing so many things in my life so much easier now, and my thought process, my life, my outlook on life feels so much better, and I feel honestly so much more at peace. I am getting these pieces of a puzzle of my life and putting them together to make a better version of me. And I feel like this puzzle is gonna like keep expanding, and that's okay. And when I recognize that this is gonna be a forever thing, it doesn't seem so scary anymore, because it's the truth. Like I'm gonna keep working at this forever. Like I'm gonna keep reminding myself of the small things every day. I'm gonna practice mindfulness, because you know that's another big thing with anxiety, is practicing mindfulness. You know, I've had like my fair share of, you know, oncoming panic attacks in the past few weeks or so, you know, especially like with the coffee and stuff, and I'm able to recognize those faster, catch them, catch the little bunny rabbit, and de-escalate myself. And while the anxious feeling is never fun, it's a better feeling to know that it's not lasting as long anymore, and the afterthoughts, the prior thoughts, they're not consuming so much of my daily life anymore. Like I'm able to learn now, more so now than ever, that they really are just thoughts and they can just come and go. It has been like a really peaceful journey, and every time I see my therapist, she's like my little cheerleader, and she's telling me like, you're doing really great. Like you are at a point in therapy where some people don't even see this till 6 months, a year in. Like you're there. You just need to put it all together. And when she said that, I think I always knew that. And for someone that like self-reflects a lot, especially in my downtime, because my mind keeps running, going back to the first point, I never wanted to accept that I was the one in charge of changing everything that I wanted to be changed. I wanted something else to be the reason. I didn't want me to be the reason. But now that I can recognize that I am, you know, the person in this life that is going to make it good or bad, and I'm going to be the person that fulfills myself at the end of the day, like it has made it so much easier to better myself and to work on the things that I need to work on. So hopefully one of these things, a couple of these things, or all of these things resonates with you guys. And I really hope that this opens maybe the door for you to jump into therapy, or maybe consider it, or just maybe apply these things into your own life. Let me tell you, this journey is not easy. It's a very difficult one, and while I may be like all smiles right now, it's genuinely how I feel. But when I think back to how, you know, how ugly and debilitating it was back for me in like February, March. If I could look at her now and, you know, see her and think like, girl, like I promise, like you feel this way now, but you're gonna feel a lot better in a couple months, I would not believe you. I would think you're really, really crazy and would tell you to probably get out. Now I'm glad that I can be in a place where that part of my life just makes more sense, and every other part of my life where I have felt so down makes a lot more sense now, and I don't hold myself to so much negativity now, and I just embrace it and move forward from it. I feel a lot better about my therapy journey this time around. And again, just to reiterate, one of the first points I brought up is if you are considering therapy, please talk to someone and reach out to someone, because it can really be life-changing. And for me, I'm not like on any medication or anything. That's one of my anxieties, is medication. I try to stray away from it as much as possible. I recognize that if I ever get to a point I need it to function, that I am more than willing to, but at this time in my life I am able to navigate it without any sort of medication, and that really helps my anxiety as well. But if you feel like you just need, it's not just to someone to talk to, that you need someone to help you discover your tools in life, then so be it. Like therapy has been such a game changer for me in my life, and I feel like so many more good things and better things are pouring into my life because I've opened myself up into receiving more positivity. And like my relationship with God too is what I've learned to fix and adjust, because I used to kind of only talk to him when I was like feeling down in the dumpies, and now I make it my nightly ritual. Even if it's not, I don't say it out loud, I say it like in my head. Like I just count my blessings, I say my thank yous, and that allows me to wake up with a positive mindset in the morning, and so on and so forth. And now I've like tried to implement it with my daughter. Like I know she's fairly young, but I feel like if I start saying it now, especially out loud, I hear it, she hears it, everyone's gonna hear it. Like today we're gonna have good times, which turns into a good day, which turns into a good week, which turns into, you know, like a great life. I really try to let that be like my little mantra now, especially for someone who has allowed so many moments of my life that I felt dragged me down, consumed so much of it, that now I can move forward and let the moments that shine consume more of that and turn all of the negative into a positive. So that has been literally kind of like my life lesson these past couple of months, is it's not as bad as it seems and nothing is as negative. I have a lot more positives than negative. So again, thank you guys so much for watching this video. Please let me know if you have any questions, you know, comments down below, let me know. One thing I do want to mention from my previous video, you know, like my weekly reboot video, if you haven't watched that one, go ahead and check it out. It's another one of those things that I do to like try to keep myself on track, is if you want to start off small, especially with practicing mindfulness, I recommend a journal. This is one that I got. It's the self-care journal. I got this one again because it's pink and it's really cute, but I primarily started off with this one. This is the 6-Minute Diary. Both of these are actually from Amazon and I really, really love them. If you watched again my last video, you'll see that I have like an abundance of journals, but it's just for me to keep busy, and this is just how I like to do things. Journals in any way, shape, or form, even if it's just you writing on a notepad, is really, really great, and just getting those thoughts down onto paper, especially if you're like me and they consume so much of your mind. Just put it down on paper, let them be, you know, in a physical form rather than like carrying the mental load, and I feel like that just lifts a huge weight off of your shoulders. It's good to do it like right when you wake up and then right before you go to sleep, just so like you empty your mind as often as you can and not again carry like this huge weight on your shoulders. But thank you guys so much for watching this video. Go ahead and leave me a comment down below again if you have any questions or if you found any of these inspiring. I'll see you guys on the next video. Bye!